One of the most unfortunate truths in life is that becoming the champion is always more fun than actually being the champion. On the way up, it's super awesome. You can look at your competitors and say, I'm going to be the champion. And they never believe you. They always think that they're going to be the champion. But then you become the champion. You start relentlessly, persistently winning over and over and over again, showing that you're actually the best at the thing you said you were the best at. And here's where the unfortunate part comes in. This is where the rest of the entrants in the field start picking up torches and pitchforks. They don't like it that you're winning all the time. You're actually showing over and over again that you're actually the best at the thing you were the best at. That they're not the best, it's actually you, just like you said. They don't like that. The other competitors don't like to lose. And unfortunately, this is exactly where Cardano finds itself right now. All along, we said we were the kings of decentralization. And unfortunately, for the rest of the large crypto blockchains, the Edinburgh Decentralization Index seems to agree very strongly with us. If you thought it was bad enough when the rest of crypto seemed to hate Cardano for no reason whatsoever, or if you're finding value in these videos, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. Well, guys, we've been saying it for a really long time, but I think at this point, we can just accept it as the truth. They hate us because they ain't us. So Cardano for a long time has been super ultra focused on decentralization. That has been one of the biggest things. How do we create the most decentralized blockchain? While some other blockchains seem to have been focused on how do we get the most VCs into our blockchain? How do we get the most institutional money into our blockchain? That seems to have been the focus of some other blockchains. I won't name any names, but I think we all could name a few. Cardano, on the other hand, was ultra focused on the initial principles of crypto. How do we create this decentralized ledger that is permissionless and censorship resistant and not reliant on a single party? How do we create something like this that can be a new monetary system, a new economic system? All those things we talk about all the time in Cardano. Cardano has really been all about those things. Could we have brought in more money if we were more focused on courting VCs? Over the course of the short term, yes, because that's what some of our competitors did. They were hyper focused on doing the North American big tech aspirational thing. How do you get the most VC money into your startup technology project? That's the way tech works in a lot of cases, at least on on the coasts of North America. That's not what Cardano did. Cardano sort of rejected that whole ethos right from the beginning. Instead, we said, how do we create a better version of Bitcoin? I dare say it like that. How do we create a better version of Bitcoin? It was obvious it had to include smart contracts. It had to be proof of stake. How do we leverage all of these different things to make a better version of Bitcoin that solves the blockchain trilemma? How do we get security? How do we get scaling and decentralization simultaneously? How do we be the very best version of that thing? One of the centerpieces of that has always been the decentralization leg of the blockchain trilemma. It's super easy. We've talked about it a million times, and everybody in crypto has talked about it a million times. This is why it's so mystifying. You must have the decentralization piece if you're really doing the crypto thing. It's really easy to do the other two legs if you just centralize it. If you just run it like an Excel spreadsheet, it's fine. You can go as fast as you want to go. You can have, you can also have high security, but it's really hard to do this thing with the decentralization piece. And that's what Cardano has been so focused on. And the rest of crypto, because it's so hard to do that. It's so hard to do the decentralization thing for real. The rest of crypto just kind of drifted away from it. It was like this collusion thing, like, hey, we're all just going to continue using that decentralization label, but we're just going to drift away from decentralization and we're just like not going to talk about it. It's kind of like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like if there was some, it's like football. Let's talk about international football, not American football, but international football. What people in the US call soccer. If all of a sudden everyone who plays soccer just decided like, "Hey, wouldn't this be easier if we could use our hands? What if we could just pick up the ball and run across the field? Wouldn't that be easier? Let's just do that. Let's just forget about the, no hands thing. Let's just start using our hands because it's easier and we'll just not talk about it. We'll just start picking up the ball with our hands, running across the field, and we'll just not talk about how originally the whole point was you're not supposed to use your hands." That's kind of what's been going on in crypto for like, over half a decade now. People are like, yo, this blockchain trilemma, really tough to solve. Let's just forget about the decentralization piece. And it sounds like I'm exaggerating. And we've dug into this before on this channel. We've talked many times about how the Nakamoto coefficients of all the biggest blockchains weren't what they would like you to believe they are. But it was always something that was sort of done by people on social media, on YouTube, people making videos, people making threads, posts. There was never sort of an open source, peer reviewable sort of, collection of all of this data on this drift in crypto. And most importantly for us in Cardano, the fact that Cardano was not a part of that drift. Cardano was doing the ultra hard thing, keeping the decentralization piece, increasing its decentralization, even once we reached our sort of final form, once we actually launched, the real latest iterations of Cardano. But now we have that. We've been waiting a long time for the Edinburgh Decentralization Index. This is going to be a scientific attempt at defining decentralization. We've known this has been going along for a long time. Obviously, everybody in Cardano, everybody I know at least, was very much in favor of this because it's like you can't really have a competition unless you know how to measure the competition, unless you know how to measure the different entrants in the field, measure them on some metric. You must have some common metric to have competition. And that's what the other large cap blockchains in crypto didn't want, because when they dug into it, they realized they were far, far behind in this race. And in some cases, probably irretrievably far behind. The lead that Cardano had was not going to be surmountable because they had made fundamentally different choices from go. They had decided to do things in an easier way in a lot of cases, a way to maximize scaling, and a lot of times, to be honest, a lot of times they sort of sacrifice the security leg too. We've talked many times about the robbery forced on this channel, but they definitely were trying to maximize scaling, and sometimes in a lot of cases, they weren't even good at that. But no matter how well they did on the legs that weren't decentralization, they definitely sacrificed the decentralization piece because it's the hardest. It's the really hard piece. It's really hard to do this decentralization thing. Cardano didn't. So these other blockchains were not exactly chomping at the bit to have a peer reviewable, open source, scientific investigation into what decentralization really means. What should it really mean? How do we measure decentralization? What really is a decentralized blockchain among these large cap blockchains? Because we now have, we have, thousands and thousands and thousands of blockchains out there. Crypto's been around, for over a decade and a half at this point, basically. And we've got a lot of different blockchains. And people have tried virtually everything under the sun to come up with different, to hit different spots on those three spectrums: decentralization, scaling, security. There are blockchains representing every single compromise between those three. But among the large cap blockchains, nobody was really waiting so anxiously for an actual scientific investigation into this as Cardano was. But here we are. We've been waiting a long time for the Edinburgh Decentralization Index. And here it is. Here's at least an alpha release. This is the EDI dashboard. You can find this at blockchainlab.inf.ed.ac.uk/EDI-dashboard/hashtag/consensus. And this is what it looks like. It's a whole bunch of different measures of decentralization. I like this better than if they came up with, one definition and just said, hey, decentralization means Nakamoto coefficient. That's not what they did. They're going to tell us about the Nakamoto coefficient, the Genie coefficient, the Shannon entropy, the Herfindahl-Hirschman index, the Thiel index, the max power ratio, the and the Tau decentralization index of some large cap cryptocurrency blockchains, including Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Cardano, Ethereum, Litecoin, Tezos, and Zcash. You probably would be wishing for a slightly different portfolio of large cap blockchains, but this is not bad. This is pretty good. I think everybody would include Bitcoin, Cardano, Ethereum, and then when you start getting into the Bitcoin Cash's, Litecoin, Tezos, Zcash, a lot of people would like to substitute their own favorite large cap blockchain, but this is what we got. And the important thing is we've got Bitcoin, Cardano, and Ethereum, and here's how we did. Nakamoto coefficient. So just to remind you, what is the Nakamoto coefficient? It represents the minimum number of entities that collectively control more than 50% of the resources. In this case, the majority of mining or staking power. How did Cardano do? So if you're in Cardano, you won't be surprised that Cardano is this blue one here. This is Cardano, and we are clear up here at 58, a Nakamoto coefficient of 58. How about Ethereum and Bitcoin? Well, we get down here to Ethereum. Okay, there's Bitcoin first. First, we have Bitcoin at 2. At 2. What do we got Ethereum at? I can't even find Ethereum. Okay, Ethereum back here, they hit 5. Looks like that was a recent high of 5. That was clear back in September of 22. But what are they at currently? Can we find it? I'm having a little trouble. Can I zoom in? In any case, Ethereum is this orange line here, and it's very low. It's kind of on par with Bitcoin. If I could get it, I'm trying to get it to highlight. Tezos is up here at a 7. And Ethereum appears to be down here at 2 as well. The interface won't actually show me the Ethereum number, but Ethereum, the orange Ethereum line you can see here is sort of hitting the same mark as the Bitcoin number. Cardano up here at 58. How about the Gini coefficient? Gini coefficient represents the degree of inequality in a distribution. Values close to 0 indicate high equality. So if it's closer to 0, that you have high equality. Values close to 1 indicate high inequality. That would mean one entity produces most or all of the blocks. So where is Cardano? Cardano is clear down here. Cardano is at the very bottom. Where's Bitcoin? Clear up here. And remember, this represents more equality. This represents more inequality. You've got Bitcoin here. And this time, I think we can actually find Ethereum. Ethereum even worse. So Cardano doing great. Bitcoin and Ethereum, not so much. Shannon entropy. Shannon entropy, also known as information entropy, represents the expected amount of information in a distribution. Typically, a higher value of entropy indicates higher decentralization. So higher value of entropy indicates higher decentralization. Where's Cardano? Oh, once again at the top. Big surprise, 8.12. Where is Bitcoin? Bitcoin 2.93. Ethereum 3.28. So the Cardano higher number represents higher decentralization. Higher value of entropy indicates higher decentralization. How about the Herfindahl-Hirschman index? What is this? A measure of market concentration. I think you know what market concentration means. So obviously you would like to be lower. Values close to 1 indicate high concentration. One entity produces most or all blocks. Values close to 0 indicate low concentration. Many entities produce a similar number of blocks. So you want to be low on this thing. And of course, back in the old days, before we launched, actual stake pools run by the community, everything was being produced by by basically one entity. So we were here because this wasn't the final manifestation of Cardano. But once they actually launched the final version, not quite the final version of Cardano, because we're still adding things, but the version of Cardano staking where we had actual public stake pools, all of a sudden, Cardano once again registering the best number with all the rest, including Bitcoin and Ethereum up here. Cardano with the best Herfindahl-Hirschman index. Surprise, surprise. Teal index. The Teal index captures the lack of diversity or the redundancy in a population. It is calculated as the maximum possible entropy minus the observed entropy. Values close to zero indicate equality, and values toward infinity indicate inequality. Surprise, surprise. Once again, Cardano destroying everyone. Bitcoin up here and Ethereum clear up in the top. This one is a little bit different in that Bitcoin doing a lot better than Ethereum. The very worst out of the entire group appears to be Ethereum, clear up here, and Cardano, once again, the very best. How about max power ratio? Max power ratio represents the share of blocks that are produced by the most powerful entity, the entity that produces the most blocks. So, unsurprisingly, until Cardano launched public staking back here, Cardano was clear up here. But now in this public stake pool form of Cardano that we've had for years, Cardano, the very best once again. Doge here. Oh, Doge is included in this one. Okay. Doge is in this one. Dogecoin here. Uh, Bitcoin here. And Ethereum is in red because Doge is included in this one. We do have this with Bitcoin. When we come here, the Cardano number is not proliferated out here into these date ranges, but something's gone off here. I don't know if the top producer, the top mining pool in Cardano went offline, or if they just, probably more likely they just don't have data or something. Everyone else's data drops off here, and there's some kind of I'd guess this is some kind of a data error in here, but maybe someone will know exactly what that is. But I would tend to believe that Bitcoin is still up here, and this is actually just a lack of data. They proliferated the data, but there was no data or something like that. Then we have the Tau Decentralization Index, which represents the minimum number of entities that collectively control more than a fraction of the total resources. In this case, that is 66% of mining or staking power. So this is the minimum number of entities to get to 66%, the Tau Decentralization Index, where Tau equals 0.66. Cardano, once again, destroying everyone at 118 entities required to get to 66%. How about our friends in Bitcoin? 3, Litecoin 4, Bitcoin Cash 5, and Ethereum. I assume, let's see, what color is Ethereum? Ethereum is orange here. I can see the orange line. It's cleared in here. There you go. Ethereum 3. Ethereum is at 3 in this list. So as you can see, Ethereum, Bitcoin, decentralization, not good at all, even under sort of like in absolute terms, not good, but especially not in comparison to Cardano. We are the kings of decentralization. And at the Edinburgh Decentralization Index has brought us an open source, peer reviewable measure of that on several different metrics. How many different indexes do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 different metrics to measure decentralization. And Cardano is destroying everyone on 6 of these. We're a little bit better on the Herfindahl-Hirschman index. We're not destroying them like we are in some of the rest of them, but we're winning on every single metric, some of them massively. Nakamoto coefficient, massively winning. And even on the close ones, we're still winning. In Cardano, we are the kings of decentralization. And the rest of crypto, the rest of the large cap crypto blockchains, they don't like it. This is a very serious problem for Ethereum and Bitcoin because the main talking point in crypto is decentralization. So if someone in any kind of concrete manner points out that Ethereum and Bitcoin have terrible decentralization, and it is actually possible to do good decentralization, to do a high level of decentralization, you've got a big problem. Because if you explain to someone, if you're explaining to some new friend who hasn't been exposed to crypto, hey, the beauty of crypto is decentralization, they're going to ask, okay, which one of these blockchains is the most decentralized? And then when the Edinburgh Decentralization Index comes along and it shows the whole world that actually your blockchain is among the worst, it's like a terrible decentralization score, and Cardano's is fantastic. It's a lot like this. You probably look like this if you're an Ethereum or Bitcoin maximalist until you actually look at the EDI numbers, and then your perspective on the world becomes something more like this. So, how do we know this? How do we know that they don't like this at all? Because they're actually actively censoring the information. Here, Stick with Pride points out that this post was a thing on the cryptocurrency subreddit. If you don't know, the cryptocurrency subreddit has definitely been characterized as very unfriendly to Cardano. So Stick with Pride points out that this post existed on that subreddit. A better way to measure blockchain decentralization, EDI, Edinburgh Decentralization Index, is now officially live. Sorry, this post has been removed by the moderators of the cryptocurrency subreddit. Why on earth would they remove an open source, peer reviewable decentralization index? Isn't that what cryptocurrency is all about? Aren't we all about cryptocurrency? Isn't that the thing we're here for? Why would you remove this? Why would this not be something you would want people who are interested in cryptocurrency to see? For his part, Charles had this explanation. Remember that cryptocurrency Reddit engages in censorship. Anything associated with IOG, Cardano, or me has to either be negative or banned. There isn't a middle ground. EDI is one of the most important metrics for our industry. It's based on science. It is measured by a university, by a group of objective researchers. According to cryptocurrency Reddit, it has to be bad because we came up with the idea and provided a grant to get it started. Never forget the biases people have. So, of course, we all know that the whole Cardano was the one pushing for some kind of a decentralization index, and IOG provided the grant to get this thing going. So, therefore, because it's associated with IOG, that means it's associated with Cardano and Charles. So, of course, everybody is going to be against it. But I don't think it's really just that. It's really what Charles is implying here. If it's partially that, it's partially what he's implying here, but it's also if Cardano came in dead last somehow, this would be all over every single Ethereum YouTube channel, every every Ethereum oriented subreddit and social media platform. They would all be bandying this thing about if Ethereum had won, if Bitcoin had won, likewise for all the Bitcoin channels. But that's not the case. This is a source of shame. This is a scarlet letter C for centralization. This is a problem for Ethereum and Bitcoin because this is what we've been telling them all along. All along, we've been telling them, hey, decentralization is really the key. When we're talking about decentralized ledgers, it's it's the important part. We've been telling them that all along. They didn't listen, they didn't mind, and now here we are. Cardano is the king of decentralization. Unfortunately, not all the news today is going to be good. This is actually a pretty sad day for crypto. This happened some time ago, but since we're talking about it today, this is a pretty sad day for crypto in this sense. It looks like we've reached that unfortunate era in crypto where centralized regulated exchanges start requiring you to KYC your self-custodied wallets that you might be sending or receiving from. So here's a post that says, oh, the UK's finished surveillance state it is. And then it shows an email from Kraken. It says, hello, regulations in the UK require that we maintain up to date information about our clients and their account activity regarding self custodied wallets. A self custody wallet is one where you manage your private keys yourself, for example, a hardware wallet. Please confirm that you own or are in control of the self-custody wallet that you are sending and receiving from. If you do not own or control the self-custody wallet that you are sending and receiving from, please detail which addresses these are, who the owner or controller is, and provide their residential address. So this is the UK, and I've actually liked a lot of the sort of policy projections that the UK has pushed out there. It seemed like in some senses, not in all, but in some senses, the UK was going in a good direction. They were kind of leading the way in some ways on crypto regulation, and I liked some of the things that they were putting out. But the fact that they're the first one to require KYC of self-custody wallets is sad. However, when you think about it, is there really any way that self-custody wallets could have ever fit into the current AML framework? If you Obviously we have to KYC to use Kraken or Coinbase or any of these regulated centralized exchanges, but is there any way that it would have worked if you KYC to use Coinbase and then you can just send it to whatever address, whatever self-custody wallet? Like you could, if you're a terrorist organization or a rogue state or a narco trafficker or some other bad guy, you could easily find a straw man, a straw person to do the KYC on Coinbase, buy or sell some coins, and then, send it off to the bad person self custody wallet. So while this is we're definitely entering like an unfortunate era in crypto when we have to start KYCing these self-custodied wallets, but it was hard to imagine a way forward without having to do that given the way AML currently works. And I know some of you are jumping out of your seat screaming, "Don't you even zero knowledge proof, bro?" I know. The whole point of zero knowledge proofs is that you could prove that you're not one of these rogue states or narco traffickers, terrorist organization, whatever, any of these bad guys without actually having to provide your actual information. It's the way zero knowledge proofs work. You could prove something like that without actually providing the information. But come on, is somebody going to march into these policymakers' offices and get them to understand how zero knowledge proofs work? They don't even understand how crypto works. They don't understand how Bitcoin works. It's been around since 2009. They still don't understand how Bitcoin works. They're not going to understand zero knowledge proofs anytime soon. But speaking of policymakers, we also have some very good, very entertaining news. So this came up recently. John Deaton, who you probably know from his coverage of his actually participation in, but also his sort of like ongoing commentary about the Ripple case. John Deaton is running for Elizabeth Warren's seat in the US Senate. Here's his post. Says, "I'm excited for the opportunity to fight for change and for the people of Massachusetts in the US Senate. Join my campaign today. Washington, D.C. is broken and more than a decade in office. Elizabeth Warren has done nothing to fix it. In fact, she's become a big part of the problem." This is hilarious because a pro crypto person running for the dragon's seat is a nightmare for her to begin with. But if a pro crypto person were to win her seat, this would be the maybe the worst thing from her perspective, maybe the worst thing that could possibly happen to her. But if you think about it, she's taken an enormous gamble. She's decided to make an enemy of a what are we at $2 trillion industry. People hate it sometimes when you call crypto an industry, but it's a $2 trillion asset class. That's a lot of human beings, a lot of them in the US. It's a lot of their dollars invested in a broader ecosystem. And she's decided to alienate all of them. And it's not exactly a stance that would be friendly to younger demographics either. And then you have John Deaton, who is beloved by the people involved in this $2 trillion asset class. And he's decided he's going to run for her seat. And I know at first glance, this would seem like a pipe dream. How can one of our own possibly win the Senate seat of such a visible, well known senator like the Dragon? But look at these numbers. Look at these numbers right here. This post says, latest update, the Dragon has 5.8 million followers. And she made a post, apparently, according to this post, attacking John Deaton. It got 6.6 thousand likes. John Deaton made a respectful reply post focusing on the issues. He got 5.8 thousand likes. and he only has 320,000 followers. Maybe there's some hope here. It could just be a pipe dream. Probably is. I'm sure any political pundit would say this is, these kind of challengers come up every single election cycle and they never have a chance. Maybe that's all true. But as far as the war of public opinion, looks like he's doing pretty well. But no matter how well things are going in crypto or in Cardano, generally never forget how powerful these nation state actors are. Here's a post. So you'll probably remember back in 2020, if you were around then, Binance seemed unstoppable. In fact, people used to say Binance is unstoppable. How can Coinbase, Kraken, other regulated centralized entities like this, centralized exchanges, how can they possibly catch up to Binance? Binance has such a commanding hold on the market. And then we have 2024 with this. Just in, judge finds Binance $4.3 billion in US plea deal after admitting to money laundering and sanctions violations. $4.3 billion. That was the plea deal. The plea deal, you would hope that Binance got a better deal than if they had not admitted to the money laundering and sanctions violations. Honestly, some of those internal communications that the Justice Department got a hold of were pretty damning. It would have been pretty hard for them to contest the validity of, a good portion of those charges, at least based on some of the internal communications that made their way out. But this is the plea deal. So it could have been worse. 4.3 billion with a B dollars. Finally, I'll leave you with this. We have a picture of Charles in his midnight hoodie, no less, and Charles Deaton. Charles Deaton with the necklace with the brass knuckles on it. Wouldn't you rather have a crypto guy with a necklace with brass knuckles on it in the Senate over the dragon? Doesn't that sound like a cooler future? Isn't that a better future for us? Some of you are like, no, brass knuckles sound violent and everything. The dragon is an anti-crypto dragon. Come on, let's go with the brass knuckles guy. It'll be great. It'll be way more fun than having the dragon in there. Charles says, I'm supporting Deaton for Senate against Senator Warren. We need people who value and support our industry representing us. And this is really the crux of the matter. It's like the US is going to embrace crypto or it's not, but crypto keeps getting bigger. Every 4 years, we have this Bitcoin block reward halving cycle. And it just gets bigger. It's worth more money every single time. Every 4 years, this thing is worth more money. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's swallowing dollars. This whole ecosystem is just swallowing up more and more dollars. It's globally important now. Either we're going to embrace it and be a part of the future, or we're going to embrace the dragon's position where we don't, where we ossify and age and fall behind the technology, and we don't embrace the future. We don't embrace crypto. Let's put this guy with the brass knuckles in there instead of the dragon. It's a much better future. I know probably not many of you are in Massachusetts where John Deaton is running for US Senate. But if you are, I think maybe we should all consider encouraging all of our friends in Massachusetts, or if you are in Massachusetts, maybe you consider a future where we embrace crypto, not one where we reject the future. I hope you've had a great February. We're now in March. I hope you had a great February. I hope you're looking forward to a great week this week, and I'll talk to you soon.